So today, first of all, I'm Muhammad Anwar. So Dr. Silva and I work in the same institutions, National Advanced ID-D1S5 Center, University of Science Malaysia. And my topic today is about network monitoring and security analysis. Okay. So I think this screen is not fake, but it's okay, I can follow you. Okay. So since this morning, Prof. Asia and Prof. Islam and also Dr. Silva talking about security, but what is the core for security? It's network monitoring. So today we will talk about network monitoring with more focus on cloud computing. And later on we will know why we have to emphasize on network. We are talking about network monitoring. That means conventional networks, ID4, ID6. When we talk about the cloud computing. So, anyone here use any network monitoring tool? Okay, have you used Wireshark before? Okay, so maybe you can consider Wireshark is one of the helpful tools in monitoring the networks. So here the networks. The aim of networks is to help the administrators to detect the abnormality in the networks, abnormality activities, which is a result of presence of malware or any abnormal activities from the users. Okay. So when any of the abnormal activities in the network detected, so the network administrator will be notified via SMS or via emails, and so he can take the right actions. So here the network monitoring, the core point is how to make sure that our networks is healthy and performing well, up to user expectation. So when we talk about network monitoring, so we have to answer these questions. Who is accessing the networks, and so who is accessing the networks? Is it students or lecturers, visitors, or let's say trainees from outside? And the reason why we should know who's accessing the networks is to help also network administrators to identify the problems. For example, if we have, let's say, bring your own device for the trainees, so all the trainees bring their own devices, and one of the trainees, for example, have a malware in his machine. Okay, so once he's connected to the network, so his malware will start propagating to the networks. Okay, and this will cause a problem in the networks. So if the network administrators knows that there is outsiders, visitors accessing the networks, he may look to the activities of these users first. Okay, and what they are accessing, of course, we have to know what they are using. For example, if you are talking about working environments, so during the working hours, we are not allowed to use turn-in or certain types of applications. So also using network monitoring, we can know also what type of the application that is being used by the users. Okay, so and the access to the network, is it internal or external? And this is very important things that we have to consider, because most of the attacks also come from external users, but still from the internal users there is maybe also abnormal activities. And let's say consider this scenario when we have, let's say, a user, normal user, gain access to the network in a normal way, and start behave abnormally. So we need network monitoring tools to also verify the internal users, because as I mentioned, maybe the internal user is legitimate users, but once it's gain access to the network, maybe intentionally or accidentally, he start behaving abnormally. So when we mean intentionally, that means he has intent to attack the networks. But if we're talking about accidentally, maybe these users have a virus or any types of malware that infects his machines, and once it's connected to the networks, the viruses or the network worm start to propagate to the networks. So how are they accessing? So So remote users, local Ethernet WAN or dial-up, and also when they access your networks. And when, because most of the malicious activities will be carried out when the machines is idle. There is nobody using it. Because if you are using your machines and there is, let's say, malware infected your machines, you will experience, let's say, slow in your machines. So you will realize that, okay, there is something wrong. Maybe this is because of virus, or maybe this is because of worm infected your machines. So with the access, so we have to know when they access it. So if it's, let's say, after the midnight or after the rush hours, maybe the attackers will purposely try to again access the networks. So we have to know the time of accessing to the network. Okay, type of network monitoring tools. Okay, we have two types of network monitoring. The first type is host-based. And this means you have to deploy the monitoring tools inside your in the server or on the PC itself. And the second one is the network, where you can deploy the networks or the network monitoring tools behind or the firewall. And these network monitoring tools should have a broad view on the network traffic. That means all the packets going into the networks or all the packets going out of the networks, you should be able to detect it. So usually the network monitoring tools is connected to the mirror board. So in this case, it will capture all the traffic, inbound and outbound traffic. And with further analysis, we can identify the cause of the problem if any. So here, network and host-based, but the most used one is network monitoring tools. So if you want to use monitoring tools to monitor the networks, we have to go for network monitoring, and we should know where to position this network monitoring. So if it's, let's say I have network monitoring and it's connected to one host, so it will be useless, because it will be able to capture the traffic that is in and out from that machine. But the right way is to connect it to the mirror board. So we have different techniques to capture the networks from the traffic. So we have active and we have the passive one. So passive monitoring tools, so in these methods, no need to send any probe packets. For example, if I want to identify the operating system or do fingerprinting on the operating system. In passive, I will wait for the TCP packet to be received from the host, and after that I analyze the packets, extract some of the features, and identify or fingerprint the host. Okay. But when we're talking about the active, I have to send a probe packets. And if you are talking about large scale networks, that means active based will send extra packet which will lead to overhead or eating up the bandwidth of the networks. So the preferred one, it will be the passive monitoring tool. So here we're talking about the active approach. It relies on the capability to inject test packets into the network or send the packets. So without sending any packets, so I will not be able to identify the services, for example, in the network. Okay. Unlike, as I mentioned before, is the passive business where there is no need to send any packets. So the active approach also here exploit the control and the generation of the packet for the measurement scenarios. And this is because of the extra packet that sends on the networks. So we have a few open source tools. Okay, this is examples of open source tools that you can also download and check it out. But today we'll talk about Wireshark, one of the network analyzer protocol, which is also open source, and we will see what is the capabilities of this network analyzer. So the previous slides is about network monitoring, but we have also considered the cloud monitoring. And the reason why we have to talk about the cloud monitoring, because here we have different structures, we have different approaches. Okay, so if we want to use the conventional network monitoring tools, Okay, some of them will not work in this environment or in this infrastructure because there is two different infrastructures. So cloud monitoring is the essential part of cloud security and management process. And in addition, it's monitoring and ensuring the cloud infrastructure solution service availability. So any cloud computing, there is different type of metrics for each services. So later on, we will show you some of these metrics. So when we're talking about databases in the cloud, there are a few metrics that you can monitor the database. If we're talking about, for example, EC, elastic computing, so there is also different type of metrics, like, for example, CPU utilizations or memory consumption. So what is the need for network monitoring? So network monitoring is also is not essential only for the providers, it's also for the consumer. And the continuous monitoring of the cloud of its SLAs and supplies both provider and consumer with information such as the performance and the QoS offered through the cloud. And also it's allowed to implement mechanisms to prevent and recover any violation in the cloud computing. So here is also the reasons and for the need of network monitoring is for the capacity and resource building, planning, and with capacity and resource management and building and so on. So using the cloud monitoring, we can get informations or metric related to these services. Okay, so here we talk about the basic concepts in the cloud monitoring. We talk about the services, like Professor mentioned about the infrastructure as a services, platform as a services, and software as a services. Here we talk about other concepts also, which is layer, abstraction level, test, and metrics. So we're talking about layers. There are 7 or 8 layers, which are facilities all the way to the application and user. And we have application level, we have low level and high level, and the most important things also is the tests and metrics, which we will have demo for it, and we'll show you how to use some of the metrics in the cloud computing. So the first layer in the first layer here, we're talking about layers, is facility. Okay, so this layer considers the physical infrastructure, which consists of the data centers, and when we're talking about network, it's network link and path between the clouds and between the cloud and users. And the hardware is the physical component of the cloud computing, and the operating systems is all type or the images in the cloud computing. For example, when we talk about the Amazons, they have their own AMI, which is Amazon Machine Images, which consists different type of operating system, from Windows-based operating system or Linux-based operating systems. And we have the middleware layer, which considers the software layer between the operating system and user applications. And here we have the applications, and this morning we're talking about different type of applications hosted in the cloud, like Windows 365. And the users is also the user who's using the cloud, and usually the users access the cloud via web browser running in the host of the user machine. So next concept is abstraction level. So in abstraction level, for the SaaS, high-level monitoring information is generally of the more interest for consumer than the provider. But when we're talking about low monitoring, it's related to information collected by the provider and usually not exposed to the consumer, and it's more concerned with the status of the physical infrastructures. So here, the high level, we can say that is more for SaaS, and here when talking about low level, it's provide more information for the providers to know the status and the QoS of the network. So here, the metrics. So there are, for each cloud service providers, they have different type of metrics. For each service, we have two types, computation-based and network-based. Okay, so computation-based is example like CPU time per execution, CPU speeds, number of requests, okay, for the web pages. And for networks, we talk about throughput, bandwidth, and round-trip times. So each cloud service provider will find such of these metrics related even to the application running on the cloud. So we will also see all of these metrics during our demo at the end of this slide presentations. Next. So cloud monitoring and corporatives, this is the issues that also covered by Prof. Islam and also some of them by Dr. Silva. So here we have 8 categories, okay, starting from scalability all to the accuracy. So, and each category has its own issues. For example, we're talking about the scalability is aggregation of measures, and another issue is filtering of measures. And this is, you can read about it. So we will talk more in elasticity, more details, and how these concepts affect the security of the security in the cloud computing. So here is the interesting part. So when we're talking about cloud monitoring tools, we have 3 options. So for example, if you want a monitoring tool, so you have these 3 options. So you can use the cloud service provided network monitoring tool, or you can use the traditional network monitoring tools, or you can use the cloud for focused network performance monitoring. And the second one is where the reason we talk about network in general, because some of the tools in network, conventional network, can still be used in the cloud computing. And also we'll explain about it in the demo. So here, the cloud service provider is by far the cheapest and fastest way to get the network monitoring up. And the example of this one, if we're talking about Amazon, we can find the CloudWatch. So CloudWatch is cloud service provider, okay, that gives you the ability to monitor the cloud. So for example, if you are talking about EC2 computing, elastic computing, it can give you an options to monitor inbound and outbound traffics or CPU utilizations. But the primary drawback for using the CSP provided tools is that they only work within a single cloud. So if you are talking about multi-cloud or hybrid cloud, that's mean that I will end it up by managing 2 different cloud monitoring tools. If we are using, let's say, cloud or traditionals, things will get complicated, because I will use 2 different cloud monitoring tools. So here the traditional network monitoring tools. So if I would try to planning to move to the cloud computing, so network administrator prefer to use what they have used before. For example, if you are using any network monitoring tools like Bing or SNMP polling, they prefer to still use these tools in the cloud computing instead of learning new things. So this can be works in the cloud computing, but with more limitation. For example, for infrastructure as a service, clouds is easily to accomplish, but for platform as a service and service software as a service deployment, many of traditional networks management will not work. Okay, because when you talk about platform, it's totally different. The structure is different. So when we bring these tools to the cloud, we have to use a dedicated cloud monitoring tools. Okay, cloud focused network performance monitoring tool. This morning, one of the questions about the trust. So, for example, if I host my data on the cloud and later on I delete it, is it really deleted or not? So if I want to know more information about my services or my cloud, I should move to this cloud-focused network monitoring performance. So here, many IT departments required even more visibility into the networks, okay, where the CS, the cloud service provider monitoring tool will not give them that visibility. So, and this is because at the certain level of trust has been handed over CSPs, okay? And the IT teams need to add visibility to keep closer tabs on the network performance inside and between clouds. So in this case, we have to go for other options, which is a cloud-focused network such as solutions offered by Cisco or ExtraHop or Thousands Eyes. So this one will give you more visibilities into networks. But the problem of this cloud-focused network performance is the cost. But if the organizations willing to pay for these tools, we can use it and they will get definitely more visibilities on the network. So here are cloud monitoring platforms and services. So we have commercial platforms, we have open source platforms, and we have services. For commercial platform, CloudWatch is by Amazon, but still there is you can create a free account, but with some limitations. We'll show you how to create, what is the implementations and how to use CloudWatch. So if you are interested, you can use download any of the open source platforms, and you can use it. For example, if you want to build your own cloud computing using OpenStack, and you need cloud monitoring tools, you can go for one of these options as is open source platforms. CloudWatch is an example of a cloud service provider provided by Amazon. So here we talk about security, and here I will zoom in one of the type of attacks that's introduced in the cloud computing. So cloud security is considered as one of the most significant obstacles to the spread of cloud computing, and the reason why is because of the kind of applications hosted in the cloud. So especially when talking about business critical or consumers, example as a governance. So if I have business critical and hosted in the cloud, and this cloud being attacked, so there is a big loss for the providers and for the business owners. Okay. And for managing the cloud security, so there is a need to have a good cloud monitoring tools. Okay, and for hosting critical service for public agency, clouds have to satisfy strict regulation and approve it. And it can be done through the monitoring system and enables auditing. So here, this morning we talk about DDoS attack. Okay. So what is DDoS attack? Do you have an idea what is DDoS attack? This morning, Dr. Silva asked a question, what is the DDoS attack? So it's okay. For the intent of these attacks is to make the service unavailable for legitimate users. And from the name is distributed. That means I have many compromised nodes involved in these attacks. And usually DDoS attacks is triggered by using bot. And bot is a compromised node will be controlled by something called bot master. So all of these compromised nodes will be instructed to send, for example, HTTP get flood attack to the target victim. And the result, this victim will be unavailable or it will be busy replying requests come from unlegitimate users. And it will end up by make this resource unavailable for the legitimate users, because the CPU and memory will be saturated. So another type of DDoS attack is the amplifications attacks. Here also I have one attack okay, and I have, let's say, a set of compromised nodes, and this is my target. So the attackers can send all the packets to this compromised node. Okay. Usually when I send packet, send the receiver will send back me the packets, right? But here in this case, the attacker will put its source, the IP of the victim machine. When he sends the packet, so all the compromised node will reply to the source packet, which is a spoofed IP address of the victim machines. So all the packets will redirect to the victim machines. That's why they call it amplifications. So by right, these attackers, okay, should not spoof the IP address of this victim machine. But because he has a craft packet and spoof the IP address, he sent the packets. So when the receiver wants to reply, he looked to the source IP, but the source IP is a spoofed IP referring to this victim machine. So all the packets will be redirected. So this is one of the techniques that attackers use to send a large amount of traffic to the victim machines. So here's some statistics about the DDoS attacks, and we can see here 35% from the cloud, from the DDoS attacking cloud and hosting. Okay, so this is percentage is quite high, so we have to consider techniques, methods to prevent DDoS attacks on the cloud computing. So when we're talking about DDoS attacks is already there, and we're talking about IPv4, there is a DDoS attacking IPv4, talking about IPv6, talking about software-defined networks, there are also attacks. But here, because of the cloud, there is a new type of attacks, economical denial of sustainability, EDOS. Okay. So EDOS here, the economical, why we said economical here? Because when we use the cloud, it's pay per use, right? So it's scale up or shrink. Okay. Scale up is elastic, it can scale up to accommodate your request. But if the request comes from attackers, that means it will scale up and the user will be charged. So the effects will be economically on the user itself. So to emphasize on the impact of DDoS attack, a new variant of DDoS attack known as economical DDoS was introduced. So EDOS is classified as a packet flood that can extend the elasticity of the metered surface. So here, when I have a large amount of the attacks, so the cloud service will pump up additional resources to accommodate this request. But this request, the owner of the resource, the tenant of the resource, not aware about this request. But the service provider will give the resources because due to the nature of the computing nodes hosted in the cloud. So it will scale up, and to respond to the attacks. So public cloud service offered on pay-as-use basis. So in case of EDOS, the client will charge for this fake request, making the service not available or to afford. So this is why they call it economical denial of sustainability. Because you pay per use, you pay for something you didn't use it. So as a result, the cloud provider will lose the customers, and it will be more valuable to run and host data centers, cheaper than the cloud. So there are techniques mitigation techniques for cloud EDOS. So one of the techniques we call it EDOS shield. So these techniques consist of two components: is firewall and verifier nodes. So the firewalls will be based on the whitelist and the blacklist. That's mean each request it will filter, when targeting the service, it will go through the firewall. If the IP address exists on the whitelist, it will forward the request to the targeting machine. And we have the verifier nodes, which is represented by a pool of virtual machines. So this task, the verifier node or vNode's task, is to verify the legitimate request. And each request comes, if it's not exist in the whitelist, I will verify it using techniques like caption. That means I ask from the user to key in a word or to solve a puzzle. So if it's right, so this IP address will be saved in the whitelist. Okay. So next time, if the request comes from the same source IP, it will forward directly to the target nodes. And here is the architecture of the EDOS shield. So here we have a client. Okay, so the client is whitelisted, the source IP in the whitelist, so it's automatically access the protected servers. But in case of the attackers, so request firewalls. So when the firewalls check is not exist in the whitelist, it will forward it to the verifier nodes. Verifier nodes ask the attackers to solve capture. Not able, send back to the firewalls, and it will add it to the blacklist. So it will not able to gain access to the server. Okay, another one is CloudWatch is a monitoring tools by Amazon. So it's providing monitoring service for cloud resource which enable organization to define upper limits to the elastic resource utilization on their infrastructures. But see, this is insufficient solution against DDoS, as the user can still charge for overutilization in case of DDoS attempt or eDDoS attempt. So also it defeats the purpose of the cloud computing. So if I want to stop or put limits, that means the main purpose of the cloud computing is to scale up or shrink, right? So if I put limit here, so it's the purpose of cloud computing is which is elasticity touch the upper limit. That means the cloud service will freeze and the user service access will not be able. So it will become as traditional networks. Okay, so if I put the limits. So the CloudWatch will see provide many services like alerts, metrics also for each computing service on the cloud. So here is the same problem in case of the huge amount of DDoS attack. The cloud expands itself to max limit defined by the end user before admin get any attention on it. Okay, so here is the architecture of the CloudWatch. So Amazon Web Service is provided by Amazon Web Service. We have the pool of the services, and here we have the AWS management consoles where the users can access all the applications installed of it. And here is where the CloudWatch and its own metrics to, for example, like CPU utilization, memory utilization, it will all monitoring all the resources inside the platform. Okay, so for the cloud service provided CloudWatch, we'll do the demo to show you how to use it. And I think tomorrow Mr. Andrich will show you how to use this, how to set up your virtual machine in OpenStack. So Amazon Web Service is built on top of OpenStack, and this is its cloud monitoring tools. So before to show you the demo, what we are trying to do. First, we want to do a demo for EDOS. So for that purpose, I installed two machines, Linux machines. I consider it as attackers, and this is a Windows. Inside here, I have Apache web server installed. Okay, so the attackers will send HTTP flooding attacks using third-party tools, which is send open HTTP to the web servers. And the result we will see how the resources, the CPU will be scaled, will be consumed. So in case that you are not aware about these attacks, you will be, these resources will scale up, and it will the user will be charged. The user or the owner of the business will be charged. So we will do the demo for it. Okay. So first, anybody use Amazon before? Amazon Web Service. Okay. First, the reason why I didn't ask you to create an account, because when you sign up an account, you have to key in a value valid credit card. Okay, so you have to key in valid credit card. That means they will charge you if you exceed the limit of the free, the limit for the free users. So if you really don't understand what are the services they are providing, you will be shocked. I mean, it will be billed at the end of this, let's say, monthly or weekly. So I will show you the price and what are the services in the cloud in AWS. So here to access. We type awsamazon.com, okay, and here is the pricing. If you click here, AWS free account, okay, so here we can scroll down, we can see options. So we have, let's say, 12 month free, we have always free, and we have trials. So let's go for 12 month free, and I will show you how this, for example, we have Amazon EC2, Elastic Computing 2, which is the operating system that you will install in the machines, and you have also, for example, RDS, Relational Database Systems. So here, as you can see, it offers you 750 hours. That means you can run your AMI, Amazon Machines image, which is, for example, Linux or Windows, for 750 hours per month. Okay, not per year. So monthly you will get this one. But it's only for one, it's accumulative. That means if you have 2 machines, it will run for 15 days. If you have 3 machines, it will run for 10 days. So if you are not aware about it, you install 5 machines and you key in your credit card and you're happy, and after, let's say, 3 machines, after 10 days, it will charge you and you did it often. So 750, it will give you for 1 machine. So multiply 30 by 24 hours, you will get this number, or 30 or 31 days. Okay? So this is 750 hours. So you have to go through read exactly what is the free accounts give you and what are the services available here. So as I told you, EC2 is Elastic Service Computing, so it can allow you to install operating systems. But not all operating systems are eligible for free. So some of the operating systems still have to pay. But the basic one like Linux or Windows is already there. And same for RDS. The difference is also about the storage. They will give you 20 gig storage. So if you exceed this also, it will be shown. So how we can exceed it? Resource for EC2, and how we can exceed the storage of MySQL, for example, if any attackers have gained access to the real machines, and for example, deploy a malicious software like Keylogger, and he managed to get username and password of your accounts, alright? So he start to perform DDoS attack. So how we can do it? Let's demo it. So after here, you type AWS Amazon and sign. So I have here my EC2. That means the images that I have. So we have 3 running instances. Okay. I have 2 Linux and I have Windows. As I showed you in the diagrams, I have 2 Linux attackers and 1 Windows, right? Okay.
So these two Linux will be use a third-party tool to perform attack on Windows. So using SSH, I can access the machines and install the software. So here I have an access to the Linux and also to the Windows. Let me show you how it will work. So try to access the Windows where I installed the
So as you can see here,
I have a web server, Apache web server running on this machine. So it's running. I stop it. Okay. So this the attack that I want try to perform is due to the vulnerability of Apache web server. But maybe the recent version is already dedicated against these attacks. So this is the Windows, this is the victim, I have Apache, right? So go to the attacker.
so this is attacker one. This is the third-party tools.
That I'm going to use, and this is the ID of the Windows. So first, second, so this is attacking, and see here I tried 150 means 150 open HTTP connections targeting the Windows server, and another also the attackers also try to do the same. Okay. So here, if we go to the dashboard here, services, go to EC here, and running. We click on Windows. When you click on monitoring, that's mean I'm using CloudWatch here. So this means the CPU will increase. Okay? And you can go here, more metrics here. So we have disk reads, we have whatever, but the mostly, for example, networks sending packets also. So for me, I will. So what you here, if you are not aware about this attack, so it will keep on consume the victim resources. And if you are not aware, so it will charge you. So what for me, I will stop the this one. It will. Okay, so I stop. So if you go here to the cloud watch. So click here. Here is the metric that we're talking about. So for example, we are talking about EC2 nodes. So we click on EC2 nodes to find how many metrics I have. I have 48 metrics. So all of these metrics you can observe in the EC2 model. But for free account, the data will be gathered each 5 minutes. Okay, so each 5 minutes it will collect the data and send it and show it to you. But for premium account, each 1 minute, and it's customizable. So this is the CloudWatch, how it can monitor each EC2 in your platform. So you can also have a look in different metrics and see how it works. So, any question? But this one you have to log in and you have to try by yourself. It's difficult. So this is what you are seeing now is a CloudWatch, and this is the metrics and the tests that you can do. So this is all the metrics, and you can see here we have metrics related to EBS, EC2, and RDS, and S and S. Okay, so you can look at. Yeah, divided into 3 categories. Okay. So, okay, fine. So now if I'm network administrator and so my EC2 or my nodes is being attacked, so I should get an alert, right? So another service here is a simple notification service in the cloud. So you can create an alert. For example, if the CPU utilization exceeds more than 90%, so you send an alert via email, for example, or SMS. See, your resources is consumed, so you have to take a right action because you know what are the activities running on the nodes. To do the simple simple notification service SMS, you can simply go to services here and search for simple notification services here. Okay, so the first things you want to. So here, when you go to simple service notifications, there is topics and subscriptions. So topics is what I'm trying to alert for what. For example, if I'm interested in user utilization, so I create a topic for that. So let's create a topic and see, we will get an email after we apply the rules. So here we create a topic, so for example, the CV utilization 1. We have to create a topic. Then after that, we have to go to subscription and we create a new one. So when you create a new one, okay, you should use what are the methods that you want to use. Email, HTTPS or HTTP or SMS. So via email, and this is the topic you have to select. So the topic that I have created before is under this category, right? Utilization. So click and you put your email. So once you put
create subscription, you have to confirm it. Open your email address, you will get a notification. So this one you have to approve it, confirm. So confirm, that means it will be activated. Okay, so next, here, I create the simple notification, simple utilization. Now I want to configure it, assign it to alert. So for example, in CPU Windows here, we want to put alert if the CPU utilization is more than 90%. Okay, so what I can do here,
actually send messages all the time or
once it exceeded the threshold.
Threshold, maybe 70%.
Yeah.
What threshold I will keep there?
Yeah, now I will show you how to do it.
For example, if you monitor the web server and you know that the web server will never exceed 70%, so the threshold will be 70%. So if it's under attack, it will go up to 100% or up to 90%. So we want to set the rules for that. So how to do it? After I create as a simple notification service, create my topics, and then I subscribe in this topic, and I use the notifications method is email. Now I have to create a link. So how to create a link? For example, here again,
I would say subscribe or
You can subscribe as you want. But again, free account, you have limitation. If you keep, using I think for free you have two notifications.
so monitoring here, we can create a lot. I think but you have to go through and read about how the eligibility for free account. So create here which one you want to use. So for example here, this is mine, right? I just created it. So I need the CPU utilization maximum. But if I put maximum, it's for experiments. I would it 5, so we want to see the notification. But real case scenario, of course, you put it 80 or 90. But if I put it 90, I will not be able to see it, so I will be shocked. So we put like 5% or 3. So this is each 5 minutes. Clear, close. So we'll check, for example, after 5 minutes or yes, run.
See, automatically after I trigger an attack insufficient. This is the alert. Okay, so I should stop it again. See it here. See, I got the notification here. I supposed to receive by. At least I got it in my the alarms here.
level.
This one. But you will get maybe we'll go through again to see the notification. But what I have here, I apply and I already get the
alarm here. So it is a simple notification service, how to create alarm. We see how the CloudWatch, what are the metrics provided, and we perform those on the Apache web server. Okay, so this is for the cloud service provider. And also, as I mentioned before, there is a possibility also to use traditions. And Dr. Asif showed you the TCP dump. So I will briefly show you how to use the GUI version of or type of the TCP dump. We call it Wireshark. Okay, so this one, any question related to this, please?
Is there
if I limit it's it's defeat the concept of the of cloud computing. It should scale up. That's why it's called elastic computing. That means it will scale up blockchain. You can I think configure it, but it will not be cloud computing node. Any question? So this is it's not so difficult. You can play around the CloudWatch and see a lot of metrics, but because you have free accounts and you have limited access to all services. So as you can see here, we have 3 instances already up. So it's running 2 Linux. And also another thing that I would like also to show you. When we talk about RDS, Relational Database Service, right? So the storage for free is 20 gig. If you start dump data inside the database, you're eating up the storage. For example, instead of using text, you can save images. So it's also lead to ethos. For example, here also, if you go to services, and I have RDS here, I have one MySQL is running up here. Okay? So I have one MySQL. So you see that it's all, this is applications. Before we're talking about operating system. Everything you want to do is you can do it in the cloud. So this is MySQL database. It's already it's up. And what if I want to also consume the storage? So simple. If I get access to your account, I can get the details and, or for example, you accidentally saved it. For example, for my case, the third-party program that I do use in Java is having the for loop, okay, to save information inside the database. So this is MySQL, it's up in the cloud. So I have a simple program here. So I have simple programs that I developed using Java, and it's connected to MySQL database. So here, I have this one, and I have, you see, I want to also for loop run, and I go to this. It's already MySQL. You see here, it's MySQL connected to the service, to RDS. Okay. So what I do, I insert in. See, here. It's not about text. Just keep sending. So what if this is very simple, just for demo purpose. So what if it's images? So it will, and you do infinite for loop, and go sleep. You do wake up, you will see the storage is all exhausted. So you have to be careful. That's why after the demo we'll remove all the instances. Okay. So this is another thing. So you can use any service for this one, but you have to read carefully what is the eligibility for free, and if you want to use it for business also, you can use it. You see, it will be charged per user. Yes.
This is the application of monitoring tool of AWS.
Yeah.
Someone can configure some private cloud. Is it possible to use this particular application here?
Yeah. No, actually, cannot. This is what we have mentioned, the options for it. You have to use your own open source.
Open source.
Yes, there is a list of open source tools. This is CloudWatch, is only for Amazon. So we have 3 options: cloud service based, traditional, and focused platform. There is open source.
Like for Firefly, subscribe some services from this Amazon, then how to use this tool? How about
It will not fully use. So it's only dedicated for Amazon. I'm not sure if there is a customization, you can use it in different platforms. But this one is, this one you can use it for Amazon. It has a lot, as I told you, a lot of metrics. You can read, alert.
270 metrics.
Yeah, and it's divided in elastic computing, RDS. So RDS, you have even non-SQL service, you can host it, and it will work perfectly. So here I show you also third-party tools using Java. So I start inserting data in the database, and you can see the result is okay. So this is about the CSP-based cloud monitoring tools. So here we do demo for the CloudWatch. And what about the traditional? For the traditional, we use Wireshark. So it's basically, instead of using TCP dump, we will use Wireshark. But still, there is a need to use TCP dump because some of the server headless. That means there is no GUI. So you need to go for command lines. But for convenience, you want to use Windows, for example, or Mac, you can use the Wireshark. Okay. So Wireshark is open source. You can type Wireshark, you can download it, and you can follow what we are trying to do here. Demo.
So, Wireshark we can use in the conventional network as well.
Yes.
And cloud also.
Cloud is, for example, here.
So you just cloud version.
Yeah. And now it's standalone. It's standalone. Yeah. You can use. Actually, I installed it in the cloud. You can see it. So here's the Wireshark. First, you can download the Wireshark. So as Dr. Asya said, there is interfaces, right? First thing, you want to make sure which interfaces you are connecting to. For example, if you are using Wi-Fi, you have to capture the traffic from Wi-Fi adapter. If you are connecting using Ethernet, you have to capture the traffic from the Ethernet. So you have first specified which adapter you are connecting to. So here we click to So here is the adapters. So I'm connecting to Wi-Fi 0. So I want to capture the traffic in Wi-Fi. So this is all the packets from Wi-Fi, my Wi-Fi connection. So TCP dump. So it will list you in the text, right? So the most important thing is filtering. For example, if you want to filter TCP or HTTP or UDP, so for filtering you want to use TCP, for example. It will list you all the TCP. Just type TCP. For example, if you want a TCP port, destination port, for example, 80. Then it give you what is the packet destination port 80. Okay. And for example, if you wanna so the first thing when you open it, you will see how to know the active interface is from here. You can see it's like a heartbeat. This means active. This means you're receiving packets. So I click here. Okay, I have. So all the packets. For example, if let's say you want to filter based on port in destination port 190, you can right click and say apply as a filter. It automatically will give you here instead of writing it. Okay. So for example, if you wanna capture the traffic target in this port, right click and you can filter it. If you wanna go for a certain type of
protocol TCP. If TCP, if you want to go deeper, we can TCP with the flags. For example, reset flags 1. Okay, it will take you through. So it depends on what you are trying to do. So in my presentation here, we have scenarios where this monitoring tool is very helpful. So in this, for example, in this slides, so for example, if I have TCP port scanning. So what is port scanning? Hello? Hello? So what is TCP port scanning? What is the port scanning? Do you know what is the port scan? Network scanning?
And reports that are active and used by the user.
Okay, and why I need to know what is the active ports?
Because I need to enter to that port.
Yeah, exactly. So TCP network scan is the first step for attacker to gain access to your networks. So if I have services, for example, if I have X service running in port 80, and these services have vulnerability, so I can do scanning and see whether this services is active or not. If it's active, I can attack the networks. So here in TCP port scanning, we have two types of TCP scanning. The first one is TCP, for example, random scanning or sequential scanning. When we're talking about random scanning, that means I blindly target inactive hosts and inactive service. That means when I try to scan inactive hosts, in return I will get ICMP host unreachable. If I try, for example, target inactive service running on top of active hosts, I will get, for example, TCP reset. So how to use network analyzer to detect it? For example, as I mentioned, first I will search for ICMP destination unreachable and see what is the percentage of ICMP. And I will search also for TCP reset. Is it a high percentage or not? If it's high ratio number, that means it will consider that there is attacks. This is one of the scenarios. So you have to understand what is the scenarios and what the flags you want to monitor it using, for example, Wireshark or TCP dump. So the second thing also is the OS fingerprinting. Okay. So OS fingerprinting also using TCP. So there is a distinguished feature. For example, if you are talking about Linux, the ID-D1S5, the TCP window size will be 5840. That means if using the Wireshark and I try to filter the packets based on the based on the TTL and based on the window size, I can identify your operating system. Okay. So this is OS fingerprinting for IPv4. So this is all the values that differentiates between different types of operating systems. So for IPv6 we have also different things. We have Windows, Linux and Mac, and this is what are the distinguished things that can at least fingerprint the OS family. Using these values, I can tell you this is Windows, Linux, Mac. Okay, this is the first layer. If I want to go one more layer, so I can tell you the OS type. Is it Windows 7? First, in the first layer, I can tell you Windows, but which type of Windows? XP, 7, 10. So using these ones, I can tell you Windows 7 or using these features. Okay, so you have to filter based on this feature. For example, you have to write ID-TTL equal 64. Okay, and all together with these features. Okay, so this is OS fingerprinting. One of my master students, his dissertation was on OS fingerprinting, and he came up with this finding. Okay, so using these values, you can fingerprint the different type of operating systems up to the second layer. Okay, so that's all for my presentation. So if you have any questions, any question? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, can we use Wireshark to capture other device?
Yes.
So
How?
how?
Yeah, exactly. So you remember when I explained earlier in my slides the positioning of the military tools. If you Wireshark deployed in the default gateway in the mirror board, that's when I can see your traffic and my traffic. It depends where you deploy it. For example, I deploy my machines, I only see the broadcast packets and my packets, right? But if I say deploy it on the core switch, where all the traffic goes on, so I will be able to see your traffic and my traffic. And anybody in the network.
Can we use like mirroring port?
Yes, exactly. You have to do mirroring port. The mirroring port you have to do to get all the traffics. So how you can get the traffic? You have to plug the Wireshark in the mirroring port, so you have to be able to see the whole traffic. So if you put it in the normal port, switch port, you will not be able to see the whole traffic. You should have tabbing or the mirroring port to be able to see all the traffics.
So we cannot use as the remote. I mean, it's like I run my Wireshark in here, just try to remote.
No. This is standalone, not client server architecture. That's what you are talking about. If I have agents remotely deployed in the core switch, and you access it and it will see all the traffic. That is, we call it distributed network manager. Okay, this is not a client server, this is standalone architecture. But you have to go physically there, you plug your device in the mirror board, then you can be able to see it. Any question?
About the gas with on the cloud, are there any fixes already?
About the cloud wedge on the AWS itu ya, is the any victim to the before this you already know about the
Actually, it's not in the
building.
cloud. Yeah, it's not in the cloud. In the traditional networks, we have many incidents. For example, in our center NAV6, we used to have internships. So one of the internships have plugged his device, his laptop, and once he plugged it, he has network worm. So this network worm tried to attack the network. So we found that the network performance is slowed down because of the propagation of this malicious codes. So yeah, this network monitoring tool can help you to identify the problems. But in cloud, if you are not aware about about your resources, and if you face any DDoS attacks, that will be a really critical problem. Any questions? Okay, so if there is no question, thank you so much for your attention.